tuned into Quick Charge, the high voltage podcast bringing you the top stories in electric vehicles and sustainable energy daily. And it's all powered by Electrek. Welcome to Quick Charge. It's August 21st, 2024, and I'm your host, Joe Boris. The whole mission of Quick Charge is to summarize the day's biggest news events, especially when it comes to the world of EV, energy, and electrification. And the biggest news today is that Ford's first affordable EV will be an electric pickup. Ford announced major changes to its upcoming EV plans, including 2 new pickups. Ford's first affordable EV based on its new platform will be an electric truck, followed by its next-gen, quote, Project T3. Meanwhile, Ford is leaning more into hybrids instead of the planned all-electric 3-row SUV. Ford plans to launch a new family of hybrids. Quote, "We are committed to innovating in America, creating jobs, and delivering incredible new electric and hybrid vehicles," Ford CEO Jim Farley said on Wednesday. Ford is adjusting its vehicle roadmap to include a broader range of electrified options with a focus on hybrid tech. The move comes as Ford looks to cut costs and expand in markets where it believes it has a competitive advantage, such as software and commercial vehicles. "We're committed to creating long-term value by building a competitive and profitable business," Ford's CFO John Lawler explained. The first of Ford's next-gen EVs will be a new digitally advanced commercial electric van. Ford's new electric van will be assembled at Ford's Ohio assembly plant beginning in 2026. Look, say what you will about Ford. They've made a lot of missteps, in my opinion, over the last 2 years when it comes to the EVs and electrification. I think personally they torpedoed their own product line. Jim Farley in particular, when he took to Twitter to complain about how difficult charging his EV was over a long road trip. I think that by announcing that Tesla supercharging deal early, he effectively told everyone who was considering a Lightning or Mustang Mach-E or E-Transit to hit the brakes and maybe wait until the new supercharger capable vehicles were available. That's a totally different conversation, a totally different argument. And I think it's certainly one that he's had with his dealers plenty of times over the last 2 years. That all said, this seems like Ford is moving ahead, and the idea of doing this in a small, lightweight truck makes the most sense of anything, right? I think that's what America has been missing for a lot of years. I think when the Ranger, when the S10, when those vehicles went away in the mid-2000s following that 2008 financial crisis, I think that left a big hole in the market, and it's exciting to see that that hole is going to get filled. On the opposite extreme from those compact electric trucks are, of course, big, giant electric semi-trucks. And with that in mind, Tesla has deployed a rare mobile megacharger for electric trucks in Utah. Electric trucks are becoming more and more popular, but they seem mostly limited to closed-loop applications, such as between distribution centers within the same company. Electric trucks shine in those applications since the route is predictable and charging can be done when loading and offloading or overnight when not in use between shifts. Long-distance trucking is where electric trucks have yet to make a significant impact, and that's because of a lack of fast charging solutions for them. Now, Fred points out that technically, commercial trucks could use the existing EV charging networks like Tesla's superchargers or Electrify America's network of CCS chargers. That said, anybody who's ever even tried to pull a trailer into one of those lots understands that they are not really designed or developed for people with RVs, people towing boats, or anything like that. The people who are installing these are looking 9 times out of 10. They want to just simply be able to say, we have charging, it's available for electric cars, those go back there. They're not thinking of pull through. They're not designing these in a way that we're going to get maximum efficiency and maximum accessibility. I think in the earliest days of the EV revolution, which is where we are now, I think that makes sense, but I would love to see better solutions. And this solution, Tesla's mobile megacharger, is a supercharger-like charging station capable of a higher charge rate designed specifically to charge the semi. So far, Tesla has only deployed a couple of these charging stations, like at a supercharger in Baker, California, and at PepsiCo, one of Tesla's early partners in testing the electric semi. Now we learn that Tesla has deployed a new mobile megacharger at its supercharger in Tula, Utah. Tesla has been known to deploy similar mobile superchargers that fit on a skid and can be deployed in specific locations when demand is too high for superchargers in the region. But in this case, we can see that the connectors are not NACS like regular superchargers, but the megacharger connector specifically designed for the Tesla Semi. It's not clear why this is being deployed in Utah, although Tula is an Air Force base, so it's probably got something to do with that. Most known Tesla semi trucks in operations now are being used between Nevada and California in Tesla's own fleet to move parts between factories, and in California, used between PepsiCo's factories and distribution centers. Now, we've talked about light duty trucks. We've talked about the need for small trucks in the market. We've talked about semi trucks and that chicken and the egg sort of scenario that a lot of truck buyers and fleet managers find themselves in when they're trying to price out an electric fleet, whether putting in infrastructure or buying an EV. And someone who is intimately familiar with that is my guest today, Joe Annotti. Joe is one of the leading figures behind GNA, Gladstein, Neandros and Associates, one of the architects of the ACT Expo, which highlights medium duty, heavy duty, clean trucking every year. Anaheim, California, Orange County, Long Beach, even Las Vegas. This has been a fantastic show. I've been going for years. I'm really excited to have Joe on the show. Joe, you and I have talked a couple times on some of the different shows that I do. You've always been a great host to me when I go out to the ACT Expo, whether it's been in California or Las Vegas. It's always a great event. Now, in the last year or so, your company, GNA, that was Gladstein, Neandros and Associates, has been acquired by TRC. So you're no longer GNA, you're TRC. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that benefits your clients and customers?
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it. The acquisition has served as really an opportunity for us to grow our space, to grow the proliferation of clean transportation projects. Historically, as GNA, we've been around since 1993, and we were just that, clean transportation project developers, and really focused on sort of the end use of energy in terms of a better way to move yourself around. And what the TRC acquisition does is it brings a longer, broader, wider look at the value chain of energy. And so TRC historically has been in generation, transmission, distribution. That's their sweet spot. They do a tremendous amount of utility work. And so if you look at the value chain of the energy molecules it travels through, the acquisition of GNA by TRC is that last piece of the puzzle. It's that last piece of consumption of that energy in a clean, efficient, sustainable way. And so now our team represents this really comprehensive view of the market, by looking at not just where that energy molecule is consumed, but how it gets to you.
You guys have been doing a tremendous job with that for years, obviously, not only with the spotlight that the show has put on the different advances in clean trucking and clean transportation and clean construction and mining equipment now in more recent years, but you're also directly benefiting the fleets that are those early adopters that are sort of taking a chance on electrification. And I remember it was just 2 years ago that we saw a press release come across my desk talking about how you've put nearly $1 billion into the hands of fleets looking to decarbonize. And that took a long time. And now here we are 2 years later, and now we're already at 2 billion. Do you feel like those incentives are accelerating and that the fleet uptake is accelerating, or is it just the market maturing?
It's all of the above. And I think that's the really incredible thing that we've seen, is that it's not just one thing. It's this diversification of investments that we've seen proliferate, particularly since this really rapid acceleration since 2022, but certainly since 2019 in the zero emission space. And so we've seen this jump. And like you said, we put out that press release. I think we put a press release out at 750 million, and then 1 billion, then 1.5. And now with passing 2 billion, it's a function of the diversification of investments. And so what I mean by that is, yeah, we have been largely a truck focused, medium and heavy duty transportation, but our focus point has had to diversify as the market's diversified into rail and marine, into non-vehicle projects, a ton of infrastructure projects. If you look at the market, the incentives market, in the past 3 years, there has been $15 billion worth of awards in transportation projects. So that includes everything. It doesn't include like non-vehicle RD&D battery stuff. It doesn't include that. So just in the movement space, you're nearly $15 billion, and almost 6 billion of that is for battery electric vehicles. And that's just in the past 3 years. Now that's obviously hugely buoyed by Inflation Reduction Act, IIJA. There's huge programs like that, but we're still seeing VW money in play. We're in the 8th of the first 10 years of the VW money. So that's still out there. This NEVI stuff is a really big deal. The infrastructure funding. So NEVI and CFI are on the table now. So it's a huge market right now, well capitalized, but from federal and state sources.
Yeah, and and you're starting to see that as well too. That you didn't mention that I liked are the DERA Act, the Diesel Emission Reduction
Yes.
Act, and
Yeah.
I also like the Clean School Bus Act and the Clean
Right.
School Bus Reward, where some of the federal government, depending on how you interpret it, it seems like they're going to pay up to 75% of the cost of a fully electric school bus. Now, one of
Correct.
the buzzwords at ACT 2024 that I heard on the floor when I was walking around and sort of talking to everybody, like incentive layering, incentive stacking, all of
Yeah.
the above kind of grants, right? So those are those keywords. How does that sort of shape the way these programs work? Because obviously some of them you can use with others, some of them you can't. But how do you navigate that as a fleet buyer who's like just trying to, keep people and things going from point A to point B?
Sure. Let me take you back to the DERA comment first, and I'll get to stacking. The DERA program, EPA's Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, also known as the National Clean Diesel Program, has really done a tremendous job. And just for full transparency, I worked on that program for 5 years when I was at the EPA, and was there during the first Obama administration and was part of the team that administered the Recovery Act funds under the DERA program. And so that program and that team is very near and dear to my heart. And they've done tremendous things since that program started in like 2008, I think was the first years of DERA. And now they've have bigger budgets than they ever have and are moving to this biannual program, which I think is going to be really valuable for them. It's always a resources game. And I think the more time and effort that their staff can spend on these programs rather than rolling it out every year, doing it every other year, I think is just going to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of that program overall. So what Carl Simon and his team at the Office of Transportation and Air Quality have done, I think is an admirable move for them and the right decision. Now, to your question around stackability, yeah, it's really challenging because not everybody, in terms of incentive programs, gets along. And when you look at sort of the ideal makeup of a program, you really want to focus on, there's sort of four main line items. There's the vehicle, the charger, the infrastructure, and the fuel. And so as you look at that sort of kind of very idealized version of a transportation project, you really want to map an incentive to each of those line items. So a vehicle program, like, well, how do I pay down the cost of this, $400,000 electric truck or $300,000 electric bus? Okay, well, now I've got this $60,000 DC fast charger that I need. How do I draw down the cost of that? Then I've got to get this new transformer in from the power line outside, and I've got to put it up to the stub. I need all the conduit and trenching. How do I get drawdown costs for that? And so when you look at a federal DERA program, that's a great fit for the vehicles and the chargers. You can get those covered at the same time from the same place. Ideal, perfect. When you then want to stack the infrastructure, you typically look to the utility. The utilities have been moving in the right direction in terms of supporting paying up to the stub, meaning they're going to cover a good amount of the costs from their power lines, from their grid to your stub, and you'd put the charger on top of that stub. So you look at programs in California from the big three out there. The New York Coalition of Utilities has really done a tremendous job. The folks in New Jersey with PSE&G are moving towards these very aggressive but proactive incentive programs. And so that's where you get the utility side of the infrastructure funding covered. And the last piece is fuel. California right now, Oregon, Washington. Those are the states that have these incentive programs in place specific to the fuel. And it's a credit program. So you generate credits in a quarter, you take it to the market, you broker, sell those credits, and then you receive the revenue based on the current credit market value. Now, the market value has been depressed. It's been a struggle over the past couple of years.
Yeah, you're talking 5 to 10 grand, which is a depressed market in terms of the carbon credits, in terms of those fuel credits. But you're also talking about a higher fuel cost. You're also talking about,
yes,
in some cases, a higher or a greater number of incentives that can be applied to the purchase of the vehicle. You're also talking about a much more efficient vehicle that you can buy today. Like the Mack MD Electrek, the upcoming VNL electric Volvo is going to be significantly more efficient than the VNR that came before it. And even that's a second generation product, right? It's an electrified thing. So while that is accurate, that's still not the only justification. That's not the only way to make an EV pencil in the heavy truck space.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And a lot of the decisions that have been made this far don't pencil. They,
That's
if
right.
you look at
Yes.
the economics
We
of
don't
these
talk about that
situations.
on this
Yeah.
show.
But that's okay because these decisions don't have to, looking purely at the financial impacts of it is myopic, quite frankly. And when you look at this journey, you have to look at it from a social and environmental perspective as well as financial. This is a much broader play than just purely wheels on the road. And so obviously, I mean, the environmental, sure, it's zero emission, right? So we've got that covered. And there's lots of discussions to be made about well to wheels versus, tailpipe, and there's plenty of opportunities, but there's also the social aspects of it. These drivers are coming home happier and cleaner. There's safety elements associated with it. It's a better experience. We'll be at a show next month, IAA Transportation in Hanover, and their ride and drive is inside of a facility. It's inside closed doors, and the only way they can do that is because everything's zero emission.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up because there was an American Lung Association study that showed a direct correlation as the number of registrations for EVs went up in a given zip code. The number of ER visits with respiratory illnesses among
Sure.
children and elderly went down. And it was like not quite 1 to 1, but it was like for every 5% uptick in EV adoption, you saw a drop of like 2.5 to 3% of ER visits, right?
Yeah.
And you talk about the greater value of electrification and the social value of that. If it's your kid who doesn't go to the ER, if it's your kid who is home safe and not, suffering from that respiratory illness, the value is immeasurable, right? So it's definitely something that we all need to kind of take a step back and see that bigger picture. Joe, thank you so much for bringing all this up and being on the show with us. We're coming to the end of our time commitment here. I want to be very respectful of your time. I know that you're doing big things, important things for the industry and for the people in and around it. How do people listening to this show get a hold of you? How do they follow along with what TRC is doing? What can you do for them, and how do they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So TRC Companies is where you can find us. That's an easy Google search. The as you mentioned earlier, ACT Expo is probably our biggest and best forum for engaging with our team. We'll be in Southern California again next spring, and then it's a great way to kind of see the show, to see the opportunities in play, to see what the market looks like, and see what the future of the market looks like. So that's ACT Expo. And that's going to be in California next spring. It's been a pleasure as always, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And not to sound like a degenerate, but you kicked out the nursing convention. So like nobody's happy about that.
Well, they were a great co-host with us. We appreciated sharing the convention with them, but we have moved weeks, so we did not displace the nurses. They are still going to do a fine show on their own, but we needed more space. The market grows. We needed more halls, and so we'll be taking fully over the Anaheim Convention Center this year.
That's a great show. I'll definitely see you there. And if you're listening to this and you are at all interested in heavy trucks or heavy equipment, the ACT Expo is a phenomenal show. Anaheim's a great town. Definitely check it out. Once again, Joe Annotti from TRC. Thanks for being on the show. Can't wait to go out and see you guys next April. Moving on from that, we like to close out every day talking about energy, talking about sustainability, talking about renewable energy options. Today is no different. Renewables now make up 30% of U.S. power capacity, according to FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC. Latest monthly energy infrastructure update, which includes data through June 30th and was reviewed by the Sunday campaign, also reported that June was the 10th month in a row in which solar was the largest source of new capacity. That puts solar on track to become America's second largest source of electricity, behind only natural gas within 3 years. During the first half of 2024, solar and wind added 13,072 megawatts and 2,129 megawatts, respectively. Combined with 212 megawatts of hydropower and 3 megawatts of biomass, renewables were 91.2% of capacity added. The balance consisted of the 1,100 Vogtle 4 nuclear reactor in Georgia, plus 369 megawatts of gas, 11 megawatts of oil, and 3 megawatts of other. The new solar capacity added in the first half of 24 was more than double the solar capacity added year over year. In June alone, solar comprised 97.4% of all new capacity added, followed by hydropower. Solar now has the largest source of new generating capacity for 10 months straight, September 23 through June 24. For 7 of those 10 months, wind took second place. That's all we've got today, August 21st. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like what you heard. Follow up with Joe Annotti and his exploits at the ACT Expo. And hey, we might have a little surprise for you there next April. Might find a little booth doing some live podcast recordings, so come check me out there as well. With that, have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow.